Do you find that you don't have enough time to play your instrument or be creative? Would you want more time to play your guitar or your drums or just be creative in any way? I've found that there are certain ways that can help, and I'll be sharing those after this intro. Hello and welcome to another video with me, Elmo J. Karilainen. It's good to have you along. You can call me this guy or that guy or whichever guy you want. Today I'm talking about the lack of time, something that a lot of us really suffer from, and I know I do. It's a very common thing that people feel they don't have the time to do the things that they want. I'll be talking about practice time, but this applies to creating time for anything. It can be anything creative, it can be studying, it can be just going out for a jog, whatever. People need time, and I have a few tips that can help with that. So a bit of background, in case you don't know me, I have a day job. I have this YouTube channel. At the moment I'm uploading 3 videos per week. I have 2 kids and a wife. And I do spend time with my family, and it gets to be quite a lot, especially when I play gigs as well, and I write music and record music, not just for the channel. It's insane, and this whole video started with the question I had in the comments of one of my videos: how do I find the time to do everything that I do? So yeah, how do I find the time? Well, I have a few tips. First, I'll go through the general tips that I have that create more time for me to do this, and then I have actually a couple guitar-specific or practice-specific tips towards the end as well. But the first one is I'm stoic about stuff. I don't worry. I take a fairly relaxed view of things. And one thing that I've noticed is that people spend a lot of time worrying and don't really get things done. I've been in bands where this has been the case. One such band was we were doing well, but we didn't make any new material because the band leader, and I've spoken about this in other videos, the band leader was so worried about what people would think, and he wanted it to be perfect, that he ended up making nothing, doing nothing. Actually, I think he suffered a burnout at some point. And I've done this. I've obsessed and worried and about stuff that's kind of inconsequential. I mean, it's one thing if you're making a song to think about, am I happy with this? But you can't worry about the outside world. And we tend to worry about inconsequential things that are out of our control. So one thing that I've learned is really to focus on things that I can actually control, or at least do something about, and just ignore stuff that I can't control. So I don't sit around worrying about all sorts of irrelevant stuff, really. So that's tip number 1. Don't worry about all sorts of stuff. Try to focus on things that you can actually control, and your playing is one of those things. What people will think is a thing that you cannot control. So yeah, basically in practical terms that means for me that I don't really spend time following what's popular. I follow what happens in the world. I don't follow what's popular in the guitar playing community. I don't try to kind of do what everyone else does. I just do whatever I feel like doing, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, at least I've been productive. The second one is prioritize. So even if it's just 5 minutes of doing something, there are loads of things you can do in 5 minutes. It can be annoying, that kind of start-stop type of thing, but even taking that 5 minutes and just picking up your instrument can be really good for you. You can come up with something You can come up with something new, or you can just play a bit, and it can be enjoyable. Now, along with prioritizing comes certain things that you can leave out of your day. That I have, because I was close to a burnout a couple of years ago, and I've consequently learned to leave certain things. Now, email is one of those things. I've really cut down on emails. I read emails once a week, maybe twice a week, and that goes for work-related emails, it goes for my music-related emails, it goes for just general emails that I get. I remember I used to spend a lot of time reading emails. I liked my inbox to be clean. At the moment, I have tons and tons of unread messages in all of my different email accounts. But I've found that you don't really get anything out of reading emails. You're not being efficient. It's wasting time, actually. Nothing happens if you respond later. If it's someone who's so impatient that they cannot wait for you to respond, then it's probably not worth the hassle in the first place. I do check urgent messages if there's something like, hey, we need you to come to a gig today. I've never had that because people call me if they need me to do a gig, but still stuff like that. I do kind of keep an eye out on the subject lines, but I read them once a week, twice a week, and the same goes for my work emails, which sometimes can cause a bit of problems. But actually, it's easier to apologize later than keep abreast of the whole thing, because at some point you'll just be swamped by emails. And another thing I've learned to leave is social media. I only do social media to spread my music, and I don't really engage in all sorts of rubbish that's totally inconsequential to music, really. I do check my Facebook feed if I'm really bored and have nothing to do and it's late in the night and everyone else is asleep and I have a couple of minutes, I might check what's going on. I don't engage in political commenting anymore. I used to do that quite a lot because I am politically fairly interested. I'm the kind of person who likes to argue, like really kind of do extended arguments and stuff, but it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't being kind of, it wasn't creative is the wrong word. It wasn't creating anything positive. Some noise outside, I don't know what it is. So I left social media and I had so much more time. I left emails and that created a lot of time. And I'm sure there are things in your life that you can kind of look at and go, is this really essential? You can do it more effectively. You can do it once a week, maybe, if there's something that you think is inconsequential or irrelevant or fairly irrelevant. I mean, you have to look at your emails sometimes, but still. Think about that, find your balance, and that will help. All right, and the next one is throw money at the problem. Now, I don't mean that you should be throwing money at every problem you have. That's not very efficient either. But you need to think about what is your time worth. If you're trying to save, well, let's say you're trying to save $5 on doing something that takes an hour to do, is it really worth it? I mean, if it's something that doesn't cost a lot, I usually just spend the money and realize that, yeah, I could do this on my own and save a bit of money, but time is really the thing that I'm lacking. I know this isn't an option for everyone. Some people do not have money, and I know it sucks. I have people in my kind of circle of acquaintances or whatever it's called, who are in that situation that they can't afford to use money to solve small problems. But if you can afford it, do it, because it saves time, it frees up time, and that time is time that you can do something creative, something that you want to do. And that's worth a lot more than money. That's really what sucks about not having money, is the fact that you have to think about money. What I think is that the good thing about money is it doesn't make you happy, it doesn't give you friends, it does none of that stuff, but it does give you a bit of time because you don't have to worry about money as much. Okay, and the next tip, I haven't counted these by the way, so this might be tip number more than I can count to. The next one is work quickly. I don't mean work shoddily, be kind of happy with whatever it is that you do, that it's that you cut corners and all that stuff. I don't mean poor quality, but I do mean work quickly, especially if it's something that's not terribly relevant. Let's say you're installing a dishwasher into your kitchen. You do want to do that properly so you don't get water leakage all over the floor. That's not what I mean, but there are certain things that you can kind of get by doing quicker. Again, emails. Don't double check grammar, for instance. That's something that I used to do, and I still, because I'm the kind of person who likes to write fairly coherent text. I still struggle with this one. I do check if my spelling is correct and my grammar is correct, but really I should cut down on that as well and just, yeah, that's good enough. They get the point. But all sorts of stuff like that, I don't triple check my video edits, so that's one thing that frees up creative time for me. I don't worry. So this is kind of goes back to the whole don't worry thing. Also, I don't think that there's any kind of inherent value necessarily in being kind of Guns N' Roses Chinese Democracy 14 years making an album. I don't think there's no point to that. There's point, for me, there is no point to that. If you want to spend 14 years making an album and you feel joy and fulfillment and purpose doing that, by all means do that. But if you want more time, see if you can do it slightly quicker. Now, if it's something terribly important to you, like making an album, do it properly, but things fall into different levels on the spectrum of how important it is, so you don't have to do everything perfectly. Try not to be a perfectionist because that saves up a lot of time. And while we're on the subject, there is no such thing as perfect music. It's all in the ear of the listener. And for me, what's perfect is emotion and that kind of stuff. That, yeah, perfection is the enemy of good, really. So good music has emotion. Perfection is sterile. So if you're making music, forget perfection. Okay, and I have a couple of tips as well for playing your instrument. And number one is if you play, especially if you play electric guitar, play while you watch TV. So TV is a good way to relax for many people, and that's something you can cut down on, certainly, but you need to relax on occasion as well. But maybe you can just take your guitar and do mechanical exercises or something. It's all good. You can just go through scales and whatever while you watch The Simpsons or something else. Because a lot of TV programs don't require you to be 100% there, and a lot of guitar playing, exercises, they do require you to be 100% there if you want to do them intensively and properly, but even doing them at 50% is better than not doing them at all. And if you still don't have time to play your instrument, imagine, do kind of almost like, yeah, imagine yourself practicing or playing that instrument. Because if you have a working knowledge of how to play an instrument, your hands know what to do, whatever your instrument is. Boing, 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 boing. I don't know which instrument that is. Yeah, if you have a working knowledge of how the instrument works, you can actually practice just by envisioning yourself practicing it. This is something that was actually put to the test in a study where they took a bunch of basketball players and had these guys practice throwing, what's it called, free shots, I don't know what it's called, by the way. Yeah, well, you get a free pass, you know, that one, where the rest stand around. Yeah, it's a free kick in football. Anyway, they did this, they practiced that, and then they divided the group into two, and one group continued to practice for real, and the other group just practiced by imagining themselves practicing. And the end result was that both groups got better by roughly the same amount. So if you have a working knowledge of it, if you have it in your kind of muscle memory, just imagining it will actually help improve you. At the very least, it will help you not deteriorate. So if you're sitting, you're bored, you're sitting waiting for a dentist's appointment or whatever, you can sit around and kind of think about, yeah, C, D, E, F, G, yeah, that's the C major scale. That sure is. Or whatever. If you want to, you can sit around and drum. If you're not embarrassed by other people looking at you like, what's that guy doing? Yeah, so those are a few of the tips that I have, and some of these really helped me free up more time. I feel like I get a lot done these days, and I don't feel terribly stressed, even though I still work too much. But yeah, these things certainly help. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comments. It would be good to get a discussion going on these, and join me on Patreon if you haven't already. You get all of my music, and I encourage you to take it for free. I want you to hear it, and if you feel like you want to pay for it, then you can pay. But if you feel like it's not very good, then don't pay for it. So there's a link to my Patreon in the description. If you want to watch more of my lesson videos, there's a playlist here somewhere. And like I said, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that bell notification thing, click like, all of that, and enjoy yourself and be kind to other people around you. And I hope to see you in another one. Take care. Bye.